Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your Mars in Cancer or Mars in the 4th house. Hi, my name is Brandon. I do astrology videos here on YouTube, and this is part of a longer series that I have been doing, which is going to be all the planets and all the houses. So I did all the Aries first, Taurus second, Gemini third videos. So there's a playlist down below you can check out there to kind of see if you have any of those placements. If this is all brand new to you and you don't know anything about astrology, feel free to check down below, and there's going to be some links there to help you figure out your birth chart, to figure out what is a house, what is a planet, where's my Mars sign, stuff like that. So if you have your Mars in Cancer or any of the previous signs, there's videos down there for you. And then if you obviously have Mars in Cancer, Mars in the 4th house, this video is for you as well. And so make sure to, obviously, as you know, like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things that YouTube gods love to have. We'll get started. So I'm going to be starting off right off the bat with what Mars is within astrology and what Mars kind of signifies within a natal chart. And then I'll be going into talking specifically about Mars in Cancer and then Mars in the 4th house. And I have timestamps down below for that as well. So you're welcome to check that out and kind of look into, if you have Mars in Cancer, to skip to that portion, or Mars in the 4th house, skip to that as well. And so there's a lot of information in this video, and this is one of the videos I was really excited to do because Mars in Cancer is one of those placements that I have quite a lot of experience with, both personally and professionally, and there's a lot of different things to talk about. But before I get into that, like I said, Mars in astrology specifically has a lot of things to do with cutting, with burns, with kind of like aggravation and anger and our willpower and how we utilize our will, right? So when it comes to Mars coming into a natal chart, it really signifies all of those things. It's how we go after what we want, how we fight for what we want, how we are brave, how we're able to listen to ourselves and follow our instincts, and what motivates us, what inspires us, what gets us up in the morning and makes us want to fight for things and go after our goals, what we really want to do with our time and energy. And so when we see that there is a Mars within a natal chart, depending upon whatever house or sign it's in, that's going to be how you're motivated. That's going to be what gets you up in the morning. That's also going to be what you may have to fight for, what you may have to put more energy into, what you may have to kind of really bring out more consistently, more organically, or through maybe even some like uphill battle of just needing to get the energy to do what you have to do in that day. That's where Mars is kind of at in the chart. It also rules males as well. It's a symbol, oh, can't really see it, but it's the symbol right here, little like arrowy thing right there, that's Mars. And so Mars is this kind of a masculine presenting energy, this very forward, kind of fighting for itself energy, self-preservation, those sorts of things. Like I said, anger, willpower, all of those things, how we go after what we want. So, depending upon where Mars sits in your chart as well, by house, it's going to really create a lot of different sorts of circumstances, and we'll get into that once we go through Mars through the houses as well. So, without further ado, let's go in specifically to what it means to have Mars in Cancer. Okay, so Mars in Cancer has a very interesting, unique approach to how it goes after what it wants. So Mars naturally rules Aries and Scorpio, and it is considered to be detriment in the opposite signs of that, so Taurus and Libra. And then it's considered to be exalted in Capricorn and considered to be fallen in Cancer. And so when we see Mars in Cancer in specific, this is the willpower. This is how we go after what we want. This is how we fight for what we want. And Mars in this sign may struggle with that a little bit. It may not really have the most easily accessible willpower as other Mars signs, because Mars is in a lunar sign where Mars wants to go after what it wants to fight for what it wants, and it is forced to think about its feelings and think about on a day-to-day basis what it is really kind of sensing and how it feels that day. Mars is like, I want to go out and do a run, and the moon is like, but my stomach's kind of upset. So let's listen to that, right? And so you can see how Mars in a lunar sign might struggle to really want to go after what it wants and complete what it wants as well. Mars in Cancer can also do quite well when it is protecting things, because the moon is this protective quality, this kind of home base security, foundational kind of part of us, this ability to take care of us and nourish ourselves and keep ourselves safe. And with Mars there, you see a lot of people that are willing to fight for their families or fight for something that is really what they need to feel safe. They need that safety, they need that security. And so Mars in Cancer can be the people that fight really, really, really well when they're fighting for whatever they consider family to be. Because when we speak about Cancer, we speak about the family, we speak about the family values, the family sort of centering and focusing, and really the private life. So we see that with any placement in Cancer, there's going to be this emotional kind of theme around it, where we're trying to figure out if our feelings are valid, or if their feelings, how we're feeling, and how those feelings are informing us to act upon, whatever we're acting on. And so Mars specifically in Cancer may struggle with figuring out what its emotional motivations are. And that's a really big part of it. Understanding one's emotional motivations, I think, is such a Mars Cancer or a watery Cancer thing, a watery Mars thing. And so when it comes to the moon, or Mars being in the moon sign, this is where we see, a lot of emotional intelligence as well. When we see a lot of Cancer placements, we see a strong, especially with Mars or Saturn, we see a very strong focus on building that emotional strength and that emotional competency and that ability to really build something from within, right? That's what Cancer is. It's that inner world. It's that kind of private inner sort of motivation and that private world. And so when Mars is here, it's like we have to fight at home. We have to fight at home. We have to fight to sustain that inner world and sustain that emotional center and really keep that secure and grounded. And so with Mars in Cancer can also be kind of analogous to putting like the warrior or the boxer into mom's kitchen, or the army vet, or even that's also a thing with this, is with Mars and Cancer, fighting for the army is something I see quite commonly. Mars and Saturn and Cancer can definitely have that, fighting for protection of one's family. But we see this as like a needing to specifically feel what it feels like to like kind of always be angry and always want to like do something, but having to abide by feelings and sensitivities. And so those with Mars Cancer can be great for home care and emotional care and kind of that supportive emotional kind of therapy kind of role that we tend to see with Cancer placements a lot. And so Mars Cancer can have this almost emotionally intelligent motivation where they're able to bring that out in others. They're able to be that motivating factor for people on such a key, deep level when Mars is in Cancer. And so it's a lot about these people knowing how to specifically feel their feelings, feel those motivations from their feelings, and allow that to be something that they can teach someone else, of how to feel their feelings and how to use their emotions to really create a really, really strong sense of motivation and goals, right? And the thing about Mars Cancer, all Cancer placements have to understand this idea of impermanence. And the thing about Mars in Cancer, you're going to wake up some days and not want to do it. You're going to not want to do it. You're not want to fight for this. You're not going to want to get up and work out, or you're not going to want to do these things. And other days you are. Other days you're going to be pulled in this direction. And so all Cancer placements have to understand that natural ebb and flow of the day-to-day experience. And Mars in Cancer especially has to understand that, because Mars is how we go after what we want and how we fight for what we want. And so there is this natural kind of annoyance with needing to kind of abide by feelings or abide by one's feelings and listen to that when you're trying to get things done. However, when you do end up doing that, when you do end up truly finding, your own inner compass and your own inner emotional kind of safety, and be able to curate that and maintain that, then you can really understand, okay, now's not a day for me to do that. Let me do it this way. And there's this natural intuition that all water signs have, and Mars Cancer definitely has that as well. A lot of people speak so poorly on Mars Cancer, and I've definitely had my fair share of negative Mars Cancer experiences in my own life, where they don't understand how to, they get emotional and they may retreat from conflict, or they get emotional, they run towards conflict, and then it's just messy, and it makes them not look the best. But it is something that I've also seen Mars Cancer that can be amazingly motivational, as well as great protectors and great caretakers that are willing to really, really create something very, very powerful for those people they really consider family. And so with this too, it's a lot about them knowing that not every day is going to be great. Not every day is going to be 10 out of 10 amazing sort of, motivations and get everything off their check, like their list done. And so Mars Cancer, I really urge you all to really look at your to-do list and understand that your emotional capacity for things is so important, and your ability to keep yourself emotionally stable is going to help everyone regardless, not just Mars and Cancer, but everyone can benefit from that and that ability to emotionally regulate oneself. But Mars Cancer, I think, benefit the most from this because of their innate gift that they have with once they connect with their own feelings and their own emotions and being able to feel within what they experienced before, right? Knowing that, on this sort of time in the day, my energy gets kind of lower. This sort of day of the week, I just really don't like, right? Kind of understanding their own motions, their own kind of process and their own timing. That's a lot about the Cancer placements, is understanding one's timing. And like I said, Mars Cancer definitely has not the best rep when you look up videos online or anything. People are speaking so poorly about Mars Cancer because it's in fall, so it doesn't function well. And Mars Cancer can function quite well once it understands, once again, that emotional quality, that safety-seeking quality, understands the need for that and understands the importance of that. And once they lean into that, as opposed to trying to push past their feelings, once they lean into their feelings and they understand the value those feelings are informing them to help them do what they need to get done, then those Mars Cancer people are amazing, and they know what they're doing, and they do amazing, amazing motivational work because they're so in tune with their emotions and their intuition and the kind of natural timing that the moon is inherently kind of connected to. And so when you have your Mars in Cancer, it's a lot about also understanding where your moon is placed too. And this is something I'm going to be talking about through all the Cancer series here, of understanding your moon sign to kind of further inform you of what your Mars is doing in this example, what your Cancer placement is doing, because your moon becomes how you are emotionally regulating yourself, how you are meeting your emotional needs, what you need to meet your emotional needs, what you should emotionally prioritize. And I've had the privilege of seeing personally a Mars in Cancer that has a moon in Scorpio, as well as a Mars in Cancer who has a moon in Taurus, and very, very different ways of kind of dealing with one's emotions and understanding the value of one's emotions. The moon in Cancer individual obviously understands it quite well, and is more in tune with that natural kind of emotional impulse, but they are very emotional, and they have that emotional kind of reclusive quality that comes with Cancer. When they want to do something, they understand that, but they understand it, they're able to feel it, they're able to sense it, versus the moon Scorpio with Mars Cancer individual, I know they're quite impulsive, they're quite messy, they're quite secretive with their feelings, and a lot of things that they might not even know their own feelings in a lot of ways, and they may not have the right motivations or understand their motivations because they aren't willing to sit with those feelings, because those feelings are so heavy and they never felt like a sense of safety. So there is a lot of back and forth where the moon sign for these people is quite important to understand how you create your emotional safety and what that emotional safety looks like to you and what that process is like. That's a lot of what we tend to see with all Cancer placements. And I urge you, if you have your Mars in Cancer, to lean into that, to lean into understanding what specifically your emotional motivations are. And that's where your moon sign comes into a really big part of it. And then of course, if you have your Mars in Cancer, to look at aspects as well, kind of how those conversations are being played out. And that's something I'm not going to go into this video here today, but it is something that is definitely important to look at the overall picture within the natal chart and within what else we're kind of is playing into your own kind of makeup that comes with your astrology chart there. So all of these things to be said, that Mars in Cancer, you guys have such a gift. You have such a gift when it comes to what you want to fight for. And I'm sure you guys have not heard that quite often. When it comes to the astrological community, a lot of people don't view Mars Cancer in a very positive way. And I think the biggest misconception with that is just because something's in fall that it's going to just function so poorly. And I definitely do understand how and have seen how it can function quite poorly. But it is something at the end of the day that they are learning how to follow their feelings, and that is a gift. That is a big gift and something that needs to be explored more. A lot of people that may have colder moons, like a moon Aquarius, moon Capricorn, with a Mars in Cancer, they have their own interesting, struggles in that regard, and it's about feeling their feelings. I think the Mars Cancer, all Cancer placements are really forced to feel their feelings and understand that kind of, that kind of process and that kind of innate understanding that the moon and Cancer placements tend to give and bring us towards. And so with Mars and Cancer, I think especially they're really being forced to bring that emotionality out, to bring those feelings out, and to connect with one's feelings so that they know what's motivating them internally in such a private way. And it can also be people that are motivated by their family as well, and understand their family's motivations, and understanding that ancestral line of karma, and how the emotions of their family and their emotional programming from their family and how that was or was not given to them, that safety was or was not given to them, is something that they need to understand how that motivation is or may be hurting their motivations. And that's what we see a lot with Mars Cancer, is they're needing to understand a lot deeper on their rootedness of their family. Also with Mars in the fourth house too, but it's going to play out way different than Mars in Cancer would, because Mars in Cancer really needs to feel their feelings and know that that's how they get stuff done. The more that they are allowing themselves to feel their feelings and value their feelings and understand themselves from a space of emotional intelligence, the more potent and powerful they will ultimately be, and the more they can motivate themselves and others and understand how to lean into their intuition, lean into their feelings, lean into their emotionality, and be able to work within that. I think it's such a beautiful gift, and not many people talk about that when it comes to Cancer placements. And so when it comes to the family kind of lineage thing, we see this as well, where there is this kind of fighting with one's family that tends to happen with Mars in Cancer, where there's these family kind of outbursts, because once again Mars is placed in a part of this in a sign. This is also really more so with the Mars in the fourth house, but it's almost being forced to fight with the family or fight towards the family for the family, but having some sort of conflict within the internal world that can both be the family as well as and like their dynamics within that, or within oneself and within that private sort of emotional center and emotional space and how you respond. And it kind of can play both things here. I tend to see Mars Cancer to be more of the internal kind of fight with oneself, and then the Mars in the fourth is more of quite literal fighting with the family and kind of breaking apart, or kind of the needing to go against one's family's values and kind of fight or pioneer something, or kind of stand apart from the family in a regard with that. Mars in Cancer, weirdly enough, can also be related to specifically, this is so random, I don't know why I'm saying this, but lymph node surgery, because the moon rules the lymph nodes and kind of that quality, and Mars rules the surgeries in that regard. And just in general, any sort of water-based activity is going to help a Mars in Cancer. Understanding one's water intake and really connecting to water is going to be great for any Cancer placement, and understanding their gift that water can give them to kind of just relax. I think a lot of the time those that have a lot of water placements get overwhelmed, but then when they get put quite literally in water, they understand the kind of ease that water moves within our system and moves within our bodies and things. And I think there's so much of a gift with that, that Mars and Cancer really are being forced to understand, and knowing that they can calm their own tides within themselves. And so if you have Mars in Cancer, I would love to hear from you. I have a lot of Mars in Cancer friends and clients that I've worked with, and family members as well, and it's been quite a doozy to see how they handle conflict and how they handle things. As someone who's not a Mars in Cancer, I've had to tell people, you don't hide, that's not what we do, we're not going to run from our problems, we have to face our problems, right? Because that's what Mars in Cancer I think can do. It gets overwhelmed with the emotionality, and it needs to feel those feelings. and it is not technically, it doesn't feel its feelings, and it is overwhelmed by feelings, and it runs from those things. And so the more emotional intelligence that a Cancer placement has, especially Mars in Cancer, the better off they're going to be. And so, yeah, I really would like to reframe that, because I think a lot of people with Mars in Cancer don't speak on this, or don't get this type of content and this type of perspective on it. So yeah, that's what I have to say with Mars and Cancer here. If you guys are interested in any of my readings or anything like that, feel free to look down below. I have information down below with my course, my website, all those sorts of things. If you want to book with me, feel free to do that. And of course, if you want to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things, that is down there below as well. And this is part of a huge series I'm going to be doing. So if you have any other placements in Cancer or any other placements in the 4th house, this week is for you. But I also have all of the 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and in turn, Gemini, Taurus, and Aries videos in that playlist down below as well. So feel free to check that out. So yeah, that's the Mars Cancer portion. I'm gonna move on in a second, and I'll see you guys in what it means to have Mars in the 4th house. Okay, so when it comes to having Mars in the 4th house, this is a very, very different energy than Mars in Cancer, because Mars in Cancer, yes, has this family sort of orientation towards it and this emotional kind of gift of fighting for one's emotional safety. But I think it becomes quite literal when we see Mars in the 4th house, where there is a literal fighting for the family. And Mars does not have to be in Cancer to be in the 4th house, obviously. More than likely it's not. And when Mars is in the 4th house, there is this focus around fighting for that safety, that security, for pioneering something, for staying alone, for, yes, there is this still deep understanding of one's own motivations, one's own family unit, one's own kind of emotionality, and that emotional motivation that is still the same as Mars in Cancer. But the difference being is that depending upon Mars's sign in the 4th house, it's going to really flavor how the person with this Mars in the 4th house is being asked to find their motivations and change that family perspective, or maybe not change, right? Or work within that family perspective and that family dynamic. How do you work within family? How do you work privately? How do you feel, a private sort of, how do you feel your private motivations? How do you find that? How do you work from home? That's a lot of what we see. Mars in the 4th definitely has a work from home vibe. Kind of bringing that in depending upon Mars's placement. Obviously, Mars can be in different signs here in the 4th house, and it's going to flavor the way that the family unit and the private life is really kind of brought into this. But at the end of the day, Mars in the 4th house really speaks to this sort of fighting quality that is very private, and this very much deep gift of deep-rooted motivation and family restructuring. So Mars in the 4th, in a slew of different options, we can definitely see real estate investing, international real estate as well in certain alignments, and working within one's family unit, and working within the family legacy and building that rootedness, or even ancestry, and working within different heritages and different cultures, and working within whatever family and community means, kind of creating that. We see a lot of like teachers as well with Mars in the 4th house, or work from home teachers specifically. You see this also with Mars in the 5th, but Mars in the 4th also has that kind of school-like quality, or school teacher-like quality. A lot of homeschooling, I think, is a lot of what we see here too, when we see like Mars and Gemini in the 4th, or Mars and Sag in the 4th. Any Mars in like a mutable sign in the 4th is going to kind of have that kind of back and forth kind of motivation with how they feel about their home and what they want to incorporate into the home. Mars in a water sign like, Cancer, Scorpio, or even Pisces is going to have this more of a deeper emotional kind of tie to the family overall. All the water signs in the 4th house are going to have that deep emotional kind of rootedness that they need to kind of key into and dig into really deeply. But depending upon Mars's kind of placement in that 4th, it's and aspects and things, it's going to really create this kind of safety-seeking, fighting kind of energy that we see here. And depending upon, like I said, Mars water is going to have a really deep-rooted thing it's going to be fighting for, and it needs to kind of get lost within that process and understand itself and even the family on a very deep level. And then when it comes to like Mars in air, right? When we see like Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, that's where we're going to see a lot more of a socializing aspect, the ability to understand the family's motivations from a social context and be able to take that out and put that into, other sorts of relationships and conversations and kind of areas of life, right? We see, especially with Mars Gemini, this is where there's a lot of fighting with siblings and fighting with neighbors, a lot of that stuff, and kind of fighting within one's opinion and the way that one's not motivating, but the way that one is changing the house, I think, is a lot of what we'll see with Mars and Gemini in the fourth. Mars and Libra in the fourth has more of a I want it to be my way, but I have to abide by someone else. And there's this kind of back and forth between their partner or whomever they may be living with, roommates and stuff, kind of that fighting with those that they live with about like the aesthetics of the house or how they want the house or the living situation or what emotional safety means to them and what they really want their home to look like. There's a lot of that there. And then Mars and Aquarius in the fourth, this is where we see a lot more of the like, I don't feel like I belong here. I'm going to fight for something else. I'm going to kind of be, have more of my friends outside. I'm going to have this very eclectic kind of inner world, but once again, it's like fighting for inclusion within the house. I think that's what we see a lot with Aquarius fourth house, is this kind of inclusivity aspect where we really want to feel like we're kind of including all of our community and all of the people and kind of having this very unique perspective to what family means to us. I think that's a lot of what we see with Aquarius fourth house, Mars in the fourth house in Aquarius. And kind of fighting for that and fighting for all the inclusivity or all their community, all their family, and kind of having that different approach there. I like Aquarius in general. I'm excited to eventually get to Aquarius placements. I think it's gonna be really fun to do that week. But anywho, Mars and fire in the fourth house, Aries, Leo, or Sag. This is gonna have a lot more, especially Aries. Aries in the fourth is like a real big work from home boss, CEO energy, but it's like private, which is really interesting. Mars in the 10th is almost guaranteed to be successful. Mars in the fourth and Aries can also have that, but it's going to be success in a very private, quiet way, and how they choose to use their motivations in that regard. And it's going to be kind of this more of a deeper kind of leadership, a deeper kind of ancestral, like I'm going and being successful in my family, I'm the pioneer, I'm the breadwinner of the family, that sort of stuff we see with Mars and Aries, and starting something new with the family, fighting for the family, staying alone from the family is what we see a lot with Mars and Aries. Mars and Scorpio, well, I don't know why I went to Mars and Scorpio next because I'm on fire, but Mars and Scorpio, similarly with Mars in its own sign in the fourth house, this is where you're going to see that fighting within the family a little bit stronger. But Mars and Scorpio in the fourth has more of an uphill battle because it is being brought into a very toxic family or a very dysregulated sort of internal world, and needing to kind of build that safety from understanding the darker motivations of family and the darker motivations of what we came in with and what family means to us and what safety means to us and those around us. And it's about really transforming that as well, transforming that family and creating a very deep, rich family life. And we see that a lot with a lot of fourth house planets as well. Anywho, Mars and Leo, Mars and Sag. Mars and Leo, all the fire Marses, I think, have a very starting something new in the family energy to them. All of the Mars in the fourth house do have that, but Mars and fire, I think, has a little bit stronger because of the fact it's fire and it starts something, initiates something, creates something. Mars and Leo in the fourth, this is a very I want it my way type of thing. This is where I think Mars and Leo, Mars and Libra might have a little bit of a similarity, where there's like a family unit that they need to kind of fight for, they need to kind of sustain, they need to kind of work within and kind of have that I live here, but so do you type of energy with Mars and Leo. Mars and Leo in the fourth definitely has more of a living alone energy, or needing to live alone, or having their own space, having their own things, and not having that family necessarily touch that or touch whatever may affect them. And then Mars and Sag, this is like the family unit for this one in particular is, and also Pisces, but more so Sag is going to be like the religious ones, the ones who really, Mars and Sag, they have this deep kind of desire to understand the meaning behind why they're doing things. When it's in the fourth house, it's the family's meanings, it's the family's heritage, it's the family's belief systems, it's the culture around the family and different cultures and all those things. So it's a lot about that exploration there, and maybe having arguments pertaining to the universe, laws, philosophies of the family, kind of having those cultural differences. We'll see that a lot more with like Saturn and Sag in the fourth, or Mars and Sag can do that as well, or Saturn and Gemini in the fourth. You can see that too. Mars and Gemini, any kind of, yeah, Mars in the fourth in like most mutable signs, I think, has that quality of fighting from a mental, philosophical perspective with the family too. So there's that. And then, so that's Mars and fire, Mars and earth. So we have, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Mars and earth, Taurus, Mars in the fourth. This is similar to Mars and Libra, where there's like this fighting for the aesthetics of the family and what you claim to be beautiful and what you want to be beautiful, kind of fighting for that. This is once again a working from home energy, but needing to kind of sustain itself, similar to a fixed Mars and Leo. Sustaining one's value, one's things, like owning their things. And there's a lot of like hoarding energy with this as well, and making sure that they are creating a beautiful life for themselves, and whoever they consider to be family, but finding those motivations and knowing their values that they're bringing to the family is what I see a lot with the Mars in the fourth in Taurus. And then we have Mars and Virgo in the fourth. This is like the work from home person for sure. A lot of work from home energy we see with fourth house planets. Mars especially though. Mars and Virgo in the fourth. This is where like I said, really work from home energy, but also like finding the right. This is where I see more of the finding the right routine for their emotions becoming really important, and really tuning into their family's routine and their home routine, and kind of keeping that strict, like at 6 a.m. I'm going to do this meditation, or at 7 a.m. I'm going to do this shower or this meal. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of finding the right way to really perfectly kind of plan for all emotionalities and all emotional circumstances, and kind of keeping their house really prim and proper, or their space really prim and proper, or attempting to do that as best as they can. Obviously, you're going to want to look to see what planet is ruling that Mars. So if Mars in Virgo, it's Mercury. Mars is in Taurus or Libra, it's Venus, so on and so forth. So you can really understand what that Mars really wants to. And of course, if you have a Mars in the fourth house that's any of the signs previous to this, feel free to check out those videos as well, to kind of give you a better context of what that Mars is really wanting to do in that fourth house. Because I'm not going to go deep into all of these, because this would be a ridiculously long video if I did. But then what else? Mars and Capricorn in the fourth has a quality to it of, once again, working from home, a home-based business. This is where there's a deep protection of home protection agency. This is where I would see this more as someone who works for Homeland Security, works for the government, works for the Army, law enforcement, something to that effect is what I tend to see. That sort of energy, that archetype of protecting one's family from a very authoritative way, or sustaining one's family. Kind of the family kind of rock, I guess, quite literally, for the Mars and Capricorn in the fourth. But yeah, Mars in the fourth house has a lot of different expressions. Obviously, you want to look to see what Mars is doing in the chart as well, because Mars is going to really create quite a enraged sort of inner world, or a motivated inner world, and it's about how the Mars in the fourth house person is capable of creating that safety, similar to that Mars Cancer, and knowing how to go home and make sure that their home life and their private life is to their part of their motivation. And all the fourth house Cancer planets, but more so fourth house, speak to this desire to really create a safe living space, and really have that kind of safe, place to put your head at night, so that you can go out into the world and have that Capricornian experience, that career world, and be as successful as you want to be. And a lot of the fourth house placements need to understand that as they do that, and as they foster that inner world, both internal of themselves and within their living situation, and within their home or within their family, the more they're going to be able to be successful in the external world, in the world outside of them, in their relationships, in all aspects of their life, is being able to create that firm foundation of what the world inside of them and in their own private life wants to look like, and they want it to look like. It's that desire to have that, and it's such a beautiful thing when we think about the fourth house placements. And I've been really like reveling in it as I've been going through this series, of the importance that fourth house placements really urge us and drive us towards that emotional safety, that kind of like ability to sit with ourselves and feel our feelings, and and the value that has, because there's so much value in our feelings. It's insane. And I think so many people speak poorly on that because of the way that Mars doesn't do well in Cancer, and so they think Mars in the 4th house doesn't do well either, and it does. So long as the person is willing to feel their own feelings and motivate themselves and see the value of their private life and how it can be imposed upon or be brought to other parts of their life. It's so beautiful. And so if you have your Mars in the 4th house, please let me know. I would love to hear way more about your own specific experience with Mars in the 4th house, Mars in Cancer. And of course, if you're interested in any of these readings with me or any sorts of further explanations of your own chart, there's my website down below, as well as booking with me down there. I appreciate you all for being here, and all the Cancer placements have such a beautiful energy to you, and I really urge you to really lean into your emotionality, lean into your family, your ancestry, your safety, and whatever that means to you. There's a lot that will always change. It's about learning what safety feels like, because it can change from day to day, and it's about that maintaining of one's safety. And so if you have any other videos or any other placements in Cancer, feel free to watch the rest of the series here as those come out. And then of course, if you have any other placements out after Cancer, stay tuned to that, as that playlist will kind of be updated throughout the seasons here, as I look forward to doing the next one and going through this whole series. It's been so fun, and I'm only on Cancer, and it's so enjoyable, and I really appreciate you all for tuning in, for being here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and the time, and I hope I get to talk to you all soon. Love you guys.